count on Caroline right now, just being able to play or feeling good the day of the game? Just kind of.
I think it's a slow process, you know. First thing was, you know, be cleared to, you know, participate, and that was able to happen a little bit Monday, and then, you know, the next thing is increase the amount of time that she's in practice, where she can do, you know, all the contact, non-contact, everything that we do, and then start upping the number of minutes every game. So it was a good start Monday, and hopefully we can do a little bit more of that this weekend. You know, I don't think there's any definitive, it's going to be this much time by this point in time. We just don't know, you know. It's all going to depend on how she comes out of everything. But right now, I feel pretty good. She feels pretty good. So we'll just hold on to that for a while.
What were your impressions of the game on Monday after watching the film?
What were my impressions? You know, hard to say. You know, it was pretty good in lots of spots. It was okay. I think it ran the gamut really. From I thought we did some things that we were terribly disappointed in. We did some things that we were pretty excited about. You know, we were happy how we ran off to, you know, 17-point lead, and unhappy with what we did after that. So given that it was the second game of the year, probably exactly what you would expect, you know. Yes. Azzy looked really good on film. So I verified that.
What about defense? Were you happy with what it looked like?
At
on
times,
defense?
yep. At times when we were really on point, it was really good. At times, I think our interior defense, our interior play has got to get a lot better. I believe that there's, you know, a correlation between how good you are in the lane and how successful you can be. Not all the time, because now people are shooting more threes than ever before, you know, so there's less emphasis, but it's more, you know, you have to have a presence down there. And then the other thing is the fouls that were committed because of just being in the wrong place or being late or being, you know, caught in a miscommunication, whatever the case may be. So a lot of things that have to be cleaned up, but the effort was great, the energy level was great. You know, the other stuff can be coached.
How can you compare the energy from last season to this season, seeing that you've added Paige Beckers to the sideline as kind of a player coach?
Yeah. Energy level, I think, is a little bit higher. The intensity level is a little more evident. Maybe there's this, you know, residual effect of everybody has to understand, obviously the obvious, that Paige isn't playing and Ice isn't playing, and, you know, we talked, you know, Caroline is limited. So we got a lot going on that put us in a not ideal situation, and people have to play, you know, above and beyond. So maybe that's in the back of their mind, but it certainly shows, you know, that there's a different defensive intensity, you know, right now on the team. And I think that carried us a lot of times in that game Monday night.
You said Nika's grown just maturity-wise. Is she attacking practice differently?
I think she is. I mean, she still has her moments, but I think she is. I think there's a mature approach now that maybe wasn't that a couple years ago. You know, things that she used to do 6 times, you know, we cut it down to 2 maybe, you know. I don't know that we've eliminated any of that, but I believe there's a growing sense in, you know, she knows what I want, and she knows what she has to do So did I get what I want? And again, she knows it, but she's an emotional kid who's pretty passionate, and sometimes those things get the best of her. But right now, she's pretty much the person that everyone gravitates to, and that's a good thing.
If you ask any of your point guards the past 30, 35 years about, playing point guard for you, said, one of the things is the point guard takes responsibility for everything that goes wrong. How does Nika handle that from someone I think would have a hard time admitting she did something wrong that wasn't really her fault?
She's actually better at that. She's actually better at taking responsibility for what somebody else did than taking responsibility for what she just did. So, if I comment on, what was that? And she'll say, that was my fault. She wasn't in the right place at the right time. That I should have called it out earlier or whatever, even though it wasn't her fault. Then when I say, what is that when you run up and smack a kid in the middle of a 12-0 run to stop the momentum? That wasn't me, that was Lou. So she'll give you some response that, So she's very good at taking the hit for everybody else. Got to get to where she's a little bit more introspective, I think.
NC State, is a much different team than last year. Just looking at the roster, what has stood out to you about kind of how they're playing and how that's different than what you saw in the Elite Eight last year?
We were just talking about that. What's the big difference? One difference is the level of experience. They lost 3 kids that have played a lot of basketball. I think maybe 3 of them were all grads, so they've lost that part of it, but they've added a couple transfers that I think add a lot to what they're doing in terms of how they play and the what they're trying to do and the kind of different kinds of offensive pressures that they put on you, and that hasn't changed much. I mean, I think Wes has a style of play and that he likes to coach, and they're pretty similar. I think they're again, other than the experience factor of those kids that left, I don't see that much of a difference in them. They're still the kind of team that you would expect to be around late in the NCAA tournament.
And looking back now, several months later, just what was that experience like to be part of that double overtime game?
The whole scenario around those last four games, the Indiana game, the NC State game, the Stanford game, the championship game, all 4 of those games were the kind of games where you look back and you go, we very easily could have lost all 4 of those. We lost the last one, but any of the other 3 leading up to that game. And the NC State game, I didn't expect it to be that kind of a game. I didn't, I didn't go in thinking we would lose, but I didn't think that both teams would play the kind of game that was played, and that it would, take 2 overtimes to settle it. But when you look back at it, both teams probably deserved to win that game. It's a shame one team didn't get a chance to go to the Final Four, and the other one did. Everybody made every play they had to make. Again, as it usually happens at that stage of the season, we had the ability to get Paige the ball, and she, was the biggest difference in that double overtime. But I haven't even watched the whole game yet. Even though I know the ending, I didn't want to watch it. I still thought, watching it, I thought we're going to lose today, even after we won it. So I don't watch the whole game yet. I don't want to see the ending yet. I have to watch that tomorrow or something.
When you were talking about the team needing a stronger inside presence, is that more of a matter of consistency, or what will that come down to? And
I think so much of it is the understanding that this is what we're gonna get every night. You know, this is how we're gonna play every night. You know, these are the shots we're gonna get, these are the shots we're gonna take. You know, here's how we're gonna defend. You know, it's, and it's probably the best word is consistent, you're right. It's understanding that we're gonna get that every single game that we play, and we don't have to worry about, you know. I thought we got bullied a lot in that game, you know, in the lane. I thought they were able to catch the ball and get shots up easily. And that's, you know, credit them, they did it, but that's a failure on our part to put up any kind of a fight in there. And the fact that I had to play Dorka 40 minutes is probably not great. You know, I don't think that should be commonplace, you know, at all. So our post players are big, you know, all of them, I think as a group have got to establish an identity, and individually, you know, they've got to, I think, see themselves as what's my best version of myself, and then I got to be that every night. You know, I thought we took some ill-advised shots. I don't think we shot the ball great from the free throw line. The one thing we did do well is at crucial times, you know, we drew big fouls on them, and we got some of their big guys in foul trouble. But I think going forward, it's going to take more than that, you know. And what I said the other at practice, I said, if we're going to go into every game asking one of our players to get 17 of our 20 points in the fourth quarter, I said we're just getting that much closer to losing to somebody. We can't depend on that every night.
Are you seeing AZ coming into that best version of herself following the Texas game?
Well, my goal maybe this Sunday is that she plays the second half and the first half the exact same way. You know, she says she was not happy at all with herself at the end of that first half, which is a good sign because I wasn't happy with it either. And it's scary to think what she could do if she puts 40 minutes together like that, and when she did, you know, what she did in 20 minutes. But we're asking her to do a lot, and similar with Dorka, you know, with that 40 minutes, you know, is that what we really want? You know, we have to inbound the ball, get it to AZ. She brings the ball up the floor against pressure, then she passes it, or she just gets a shot, you know, and then she's got to play great defense, and that's a lot. And I don't want her to feel like I have to make every shot or we're not going to score. That's not the winning edge. So keeping Lou out of foul trouble, keeping Caroline moving in the direction where we get her on the floor more, getting Aubrey more involved. I think all these things will help AZ be even better than she was Monday night.
Is Caroline 100% to go in practices?
Who?
Is Caroline 100% for practice?
She's limited in how long, but while she's in there, she can do pretty much everything everybody else does. Yeah. But right now, you know, with everybody, we're trying to limit how long, you know, so they can come along slowly rather than rush them in there, and then we have this problem all year long.
We know from history that sometimes putting together homecoming games isn't easy. Just your feeling that you were able to put together a game in Minnesota 4-page next year, and I figured, you know, you kind of knew Lindsay Whalen would go for it, you know, knowing her for some.
Yeah, some are hard, right? Some are hard to put together. Some people are just not very cooperative. It's their prerogative, you know. You don't want to play, you don't want to play. You know, this probably was as easy as it could be. It was almost like scheduling a conference game. It's not like, hey, do you want to play? It's just like finding a date that works. And, you know, Lindsay was obviously, you know, incredibly supportive in it, and it was easy to do. And I hope that, you know, and I hope it plays out the way you want it to play out. That's what they're for. You know. I'm sure she'll be excited, and all her friends and family will be excited.
Has Neil talked to anyone about putting something together for Aaliyah, either in Buffalo, which I think is close to where she's from, or going back to Canada like I did for Canners?
Yeah, getting those things done is a little bit more difficult because you have to have somebody that is going to agree to play a game out of the country, you know, so you have to find somebody that's either recruiting in Canada extensively or is looking for an opportunity to play us on a neutral court, you know. So they're out there. We just got to kind of, you know, nail it down. But there's some conversations that are being held right now, and I think we'll get it done. I don't know who, I don't know where, but we'll get it done. We'll get it done.
How do you feel about playing two such high intensity games back to back?
Our players like it, so I like it. I think they enjoy. Our fans like it. I think our fans wish we played, you know, number whatever we are. If we're number 5, 1 through 4, you know, like round robin with them first, and then everybody after that. So I like it. I like it because the players like it. I like it because the fans like it, and it's a game that the practices leading up to those games are always really, really intense because people know what the, you know, ramifications are. So it's a good thing. The more good teams on your schedule, the better, right? Wish they could be spread out a little more, but they're not. But teams in our league keep winning. Won't get any break in our league either, which is another really good thing. You know, it's probably the way it's supposed to be. If our league gets to be like it used to be back in the day when we had 10 teams in the top 25, we have to raise our donations to our budget. We're going to have to be buying a lot of games in November and December.
Have you watched Creighton much? Or at all?
Yeah,
Or Nova?
they've got all those guys back. You know, yeah, they're good. They're really, really good. They're really good. They were really good last year. Heck,
Yeah.
you know, and they got all those kids back, and the way they play is fun to watch. And the confidence that kids get when they play, you know, when they get to that level for the first time ever, you know, then they're all coming back. And I often wonder what would have happened, you know, the year we went to the Final Four in '91, if we had everybody back the following year instead of losing, you know, Kerry and Laura, what that would have been like. You know, what kind of effect that has on kids. First time they ever get to that, you know, first time in the history of the program you get, you know, that had to be an incredible ride for them last year.
Think about your team, and what if you had lost to Toledo? I mean, very easily. I think Caitlin
yeah.
Clark had the last shot against Creighton, right? Down 1.
Probably. I mean, those games usually end up like that. Yeah, those games end up like that. You know, yeah, we're one missed free throw from Kerry away from losing that game, maybe, or one missed 3-point play
Or
from going.
one decantner call.
Yeah. And same thing in the regionals in Philly. You know, where an improbable bucket by Megan Patterson against Clemson to help us go to the Final Four. You know, those games is like the NC State game. I mean, they can go either way. You know, one possession sometimes is the difference between, you know, going to the Final Four and going home. You know, going to regionals or going home again. That's the beauty of, you know, the NCAA tournament. All right, folks.
Great.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Geno.
much.